Thanks for tuning in to Steel City Football, the 4-1-2. It's a great day to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. Let's jump right in. Sorry about the intro. It glitched out once again, dropped frames, 0.9 or 37, whatever that means. So I apologize for the intro. I've been having this problem for more than a month. If anybody in the super chats knows what that means or what I should do to make that stop happening, please let me know, because it's super annoying and it's destroying my intro, my pride, my joy, my baby. But let's move on from that. I apologize once again for the intro being messed up for the first minute. So Darnell Washington, he is catching the eye of Travis KELCE and George Kittle. They pay him the ultimate compliment. Let's start with that. Travis KELCE, George Kittle get downright giddy, marveling at Darnell Washington, big country. The Pittsburgh Steelers offense struggled once again in 2025. However, there were some bright spots, including Darnell Washington. In his third NFL season, Washington remained a huge force as a blocker while continuing to improve as a receiver. Kansas City Chiefs tight end Travis KELCE took note of Washington's play last year, and he was impressed. They need to keep incorporating that man down the seam, KELCE said Wednesday on his New Heights podcast. He was making some effing plays. Washington finished the season with 31 catches for 364 yards and 1 touchdown. While those numbers might not jump off the page, they don't tell the full story of Washington's impact. He made the most of his opportunities in the passing game, and his conclusion in the Steelers' jumbo package helped spark the run game. Steelmatic in the super chat, salute to you also, bro. Do you have any idea what drop frames means? Because my intro, for some reason, and when I try to switch from Google, from the thing that I'm reading to a YouTube a video to try to play it, my screen keeps glitching. So if anybody knows what that is, these just drop frames, how to change this, how to fix it, please let me know. KELCE isn't the only superstar tight end who loves watching Washington play. The San Francisco 49ers' George Kittle also praised Washington during the same podcast. He had some sick plays last year, Kittle said. There was a play where he broke 4 tackles, and it took 3 guys to tackle him. I was like, oh my God. He was on someone else's podcast. He said he weighed 320. I was like, goodness gracious. One of the biggest people I've ever seen. His highlights are fun to watch. While Washington isn't quite as big as Kittle believes, he's pretty close. He confirmed that he played at 311 pounds last year. KELCE did not realize just how big Washington was either, judging by his reaction to what Kittle said. There's no way. 320, holy effing you know what. I get up to high 260s and I'm like, I need to get down. There's no way I can play this position like that. This dude is just effing owning everybody. Washington is a unicorn, and that's why the Steelers gave him a nice contract extension this offseason. Players like Washington don't grow on trees. It's a good sign when KELCE and Kittle are amazed at what the tight end can do. He reminds me of Eric Green from back in the days, except for without all the problems and the maintenance. Eric Green was a sight to see. I remember the first time I seen him playing for the Steelers, and he was just, you're watching on television as a kid, and you see our tight end, and he's literally probably bigger than every person on the field, and you're like, what the hell is going on there? Unfortunately, he used to run into issues off the field from time to time. But, he was the first Darnell Washington. The Steelers, they do a remarkable job at finding these types of players. I mean, Darnell Washington, no maintenance at all, blocks. Even if he doesn't get the ball, he's not mad. He doesn't really care. I'm not saying he doesn't care, but he always does what's best for the team. I have no problem with his contract. Eli Heidenreich reveals team he had UDFA agreement with before Steelers drafted him. The moment and the scene on the North Shore at the end of the 2026 NFL Draft was Navy star Eli Heidenreich. Hearing his name called by his hometown Pittsburgh Steelers was very special. It will be played in highlights for years to come, regardless of how Heidenreich's career turns out. He wasn't expected to be drafted, though, and he revealed on ESPN's draft broadcast right after the selection that he had already committed to another team as an undrafted free agent. What team that was, he didn't reveal until now. My agent was talking to Tampa Bay, and I agreed that I would sign with them in preferred free agency, Heidenreich said on the Christian Kuntz podcast that published Thursday morning, according to video via the show's YouTube page. So I was kind of set there, and now I was sitting, and all of a sudden I got the phone call, and I pick it up, and it was Omar Khan, and he was like ready to be a Pittsburgh Steeler, and I was like, holy crap. The Steelers had their eyes on Heidenreich all along, though. Heidenreich had multiple meetings with Steelers scouts and some coaches during the pre-draft process, so it was fitting that with their final selection, the Steelers created an incredible moment for a hometown kid and landed a solid football player in the process. I mean, he was at the draft, so he must have just been there as a fan or, as a potential player, but I could have swore he walked out on the stage, put the hat on. I mean, that's just more credit to him. He didn't expect to be drafted, and he shows up to the where was it, the stadium or wherever they had the draft in Pittsburgh, in his military uniform, only to hear his name called out. What a surprise! I mean, good for Eli Heidenreich. I'm happy for him. I'm pretty sure he's going to make the team. I'm not just saying this because I want him to make the team, but Roman Wilson, to me right now, he brings no value. Jeremy Bernard is definitely going to be the starting slot receiver. And let's say a receiver went down. I'm going to go with Skronik before I went with Roman Wilson. He's more dependable. So then you start, if I was coaching Eli Heidenreich, he would be getting reps at the slot slot wide receiver position also. He also brings value on special teams. I think he should make the roster before Roman Wilson. If somebody had to go, Roman Wilson needs to go. I don't think Roman Wilson brings any value to the Pittsburgh Steelers unless in the preseason he goes absolutely crazy and it's a Roman Wilson like we've never seen before. But all reports indicate that Jeremy Bernard is definitely going to be the starting slot receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So Roman Wilson, again, after that, Ben Skronik. After Ben Skronik on the depth chart, I would have Eli Heidenreich. I think Roman Wilson's days are numbered in Pittsburgh. And hey, I hope I'm wrong. I hope Roman Wilson shows up this year and he's better than Hines Ward and he goes crazy and he's next Jerry Rice, whatever you want to call him. But I just don't see it happening. So who brings more value to the team when the roster is being made and you're getting down to the wire where it's like somebody has to go? Eli Heidenreich, to me, brings more value to the team. He can cover punts. He can cover kickoffs. He can return punts. He can return kickoffs. He can work at wide receiver. He can work at running back. Roman Wilson doesn't bring that value. So going to stick to my guns with that one. Former NFL coach tells revealing story of what he learned preparing for Mike McCarthy. This is insane. Our first playoff game 3 years ago, it was the Cowboys, Lester said on the ANF podcast. With Dak Prescott round one of the playoffs, for whatever the reason, Mike McCarthy would not call 2 runs in a row. He just wouldn't do it. I've never seen statistical evidence, and I majored in math, so I love numbers. I went to our D coordinator and went, hey, buddy, this is insane. They will not run the ball. They won't. And if they do, they can have 8 yards. They'd run on first down for 8 yards. They throw on second and 2, throw on third and 2, and punt, play shell coverage. They're going to throw the ball. Dare them to run it twice in a row. I think they did it one time. They ran for 8 and 7 and went pass, punt. It was unbelievable. A longtime collegiate coach who was the offensive coordinator at Iowa, Lester spent the 2023 season as a senior analyst for the Green Bay Packers with a 9-8 record and a second-place finish in the NFC North. Green Bay clinched a wild card spot and traveled to Dallas for the wild card round. The Cowboys entered as a touchdown favorites, but ran into immediate trouble, trailing 27-0 until the final play of the first half. Green Bay kept the pressure on after the break and won 48-32. Is Lester's story true? Partially. In the playoff game itself, not so much. Through the first 3 quarters, including receiver carries, there were 5 instances of Dallas running the ball on back-to-back plays, including on Dallas' first 2 plays of the game. Tony Pollard runs of 6 and 1 yard. Dallas did finish the game with 60 pass compared to 20. All right, why am I reading this? I mean, somebody looked into what he said and it's like, oh, it's not true. Look, all I can say about Mike McCarthy is I think we're going to have better tempo. I think we're going to be more creative on offense, getting our wide receivers open. I think everybody's going to be on the same page and know exactly what's going on. I think you're going to see a more refined, disciplined Pittsburgh Steelers team that plays at a high tempo with a sense of urgency. So let me just get off that article. The forgotten man in the Pittsburgh Steelers secondary, and I fully agree with this. He is a very good player. You kind of need him. Insider highlights one name lost in the shuffle in Steelers secondary, Brandon Echols. Brandon Echols plays good football. He doesn't get a ton of opportunities, but when he's tough, Patrick Graham supposedly loves him. So I think this year we're going to see more from Brandon Echols, and I think the fans are going to like what they see. The Steelers secondary has drawn major attention this offseason for understandable reasons, but one DB is getting overlooked. They seemingly have their top 5 locked in, with Jalen Ramsey playing in the slot and perhaps safety and base. But Brandon Echols, the guy everyone stopped talking about, could be the next name to know. He's your backup to Jalen Ramsey at the star position right now, and he also has versatility. If you want to play dime or you want to do other things, he's a great guy to say, okay, that's next DB on the field. Mike DeFabo said on Brandon Echols on the Yinzers podcast. Even though he might get lost in the shuffle to some degree, I just feel like because of his ability to play in the slot, you kind of need him. I couldn't agree more. I really can. I think this is the best cornerback group that the Pittsburgh Steelers had in a very long time, going back to Ike Taylor, Troy Polamalu, William Gay. William Gay was a clutch, great player for the Steelers who never gets talked about enough, who never gets enough credit wearing the black and gold. William Gay could play football. And Brandon Echols has that type of feistiness, same type of player, very, very resilient. I just think it's a matter of Brandon Echols getting more opportunities. He raised the subject of Echols in the context of players the Steelers might consider trading. The Steelers should not trade Brandon Echols. That's a mistake. Jalen Ramsey is going to miss some time this year. I don't have a full confidence that he's going to make it through the season without, getting hurt or something. Brandon Echols needs to stay. While he concluded reasonably that the Steelers wouldn't get much in return for him, he sees greater value for the secondary as a whole. Anyway, if Echols is the backup slot defender, that should go without saying. That's dumb. I'm sorry, but Brandon Echols should not be on the trade block at all, especially if you're not going to get anything for him. He can play. There is a dubious perception that the Steelers suddenly have an abundance of riches in the secondary, but it's not clear that they have a sufficient depth at safety. Now, that I'll agree with. We do have a problem at safety, but if you have a versatile corner and, Jalen Ramsey goes down, Brandon Echols could play safety. The same thing with Dalen Everett. Dalen Everett should be getting snaps at safety, free safety. All the great defensive backs that start at corner and lose a step, where do they go? They go to free safety. They usually don't go to strong safety. Look at Rod Woodson. Lost the step, played another 10 years as a dominating safety. So I'm not making it sound like it's an easy transition. I'm not saying that. I'm not making it sound so simple. But if the tools are there and there's talent there, you can't just dispose of Brandon Echols, especially with Jalen Ramsey. I'm so tired of hearing about this star position that he's going to play in. Like, it's the Jalen Ramsey from the Jaguars. Jalen Ramsey needs to be 10, 12 yards off the ball. If he's on the line of scrimmage and he's covering slot receivers, especially shorter ones that have great burst and quickness, Jalen Ramsey is going to get toasted week in and week out. So I don't see what everybody else is seeing. I really don't. There's a dubious perception that the Steelers suddenly have an abundance of riches in the secondary, but it's not even clear that they have sufficient depth at safety. For one thing, at least not for what they would like to do, including avoiding moving Ramsey there again. They have Asante Samuel Jr. and Dalen Everett at cornerback. But are they proven commodities? And if you trade one, your depth starts to evaporate. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that 1,000%. None of our defensive backs should be getting traded. I mean, if you want to get rid of, obviously we're not trading Joey Porter Jr., Jamal Dean, Asante Samuel Jr., Brandon Echols, Dalen Everett. Like after Dalen Everett, if you want to trade somebody, knock yourself out. But as far as those players, they shouldn't be going anywhere. We saw that last year in the Steelers secondary, and Brandon Echols gradually took on a bigger role after trading for Jalen Ramsey. Echols went from potential starting slot to an afterthought, but he went from 10 snaps in week 1 to 62 in week 3. He played less after the Steelers added Samuel late in the year, but he still logged 522 snaps and another 44 on defense in the playoffs. And Echols was a productive member of the Steelers secondary last year too. He picked off a couple of passes, totaling 6 passes defended. With 48 tackles, he tallied a career high 3 for a loss and recorded his first NFL sack, and his first forced fumble too. Steel Mataconda, Lions asking for us, Ramsey or JPJ. Oh no. I mean, they can take Ramsey at this point. If they give me a 3rd round pick for Ramsey, I'd say goodbye. Even a 4th round pick for Ramsey, I'd say goodbye. I'm only saying that based off of his coverage grade and seeing him on film get burnt from time to time. I mean, fine. It was his first year at free safety. I just don't think he's the same player anymore. Joey Porter Jr., let's not be ridiculous now. Joey Porter Jr. is not getting traded. I mean, that wouldn't even be good corners are hard to find. Big, long, tall, rangy corners that don't give up touchdowns are hard to find. And again, this is the Steelers' fault. They paid Nick Herbig before they paid Joey Porter Jr. Nick Herbig barely plays. He barely plays. They gave him $25 million a year. I'm sorry. If I'm Joey Porter Jr., I'm not taking $25 million a year. I'm not even taking $27 million. I want $30 million a year or more. Look at Joey Porter Jr. and Aaron Rodgers are tied on the team for snaps, the most snaps played. So from a value standpoint, what Joey Porter Jr. brings the team, the Steelers screwed themselves here. They're going backwards as usual. Sometimes I just don't understand them. I really don't. They could have saved themselves money if they took care of Joey Porter Jr. first. And I've been saying that since day one. So, I'm reading these articles now coming out later. Oh, Steelers screwed themselves by not signing Joey Porter Jr. first. I'm not saying you heard that from me. Everybody has their own thoughts, but I'm the first one to say that. Nick Herbig should not have gotten paid before Joey Porter Jr. They're basing that off of what? What they think he can do? Barely plays. Missed 6 games in 3 years. Always the same hamstring. Fine. I mean, hey, but if I'm Joey Porter Jr., I'm not taking the same money as Nick Herbig. I'm just not. It's a matter of principle. It's really not. Yeah, it is. It's always about the money, but at the same time, it's a matter of principle. And that's why you have an agent, because the agent is going to stick to those principles. Whereas a player, you might be like, oh, I'm being greedy. It's a lot of money, blah, blah, blah. No, you're not being greedy. You're really not. It is exactly what it is. This business has become what it is for, money, money, money. Well, the Steelers know that. The Steelers know once they gave Darnell Washington the money he received, and once they gave it to Nick Herbig, if I'm Joey Porter Jr., I'm taking a step back and be like, whoa, okay, you better really pay me now. So the Steelers, they hurt themselves on this one, just like they did in the TJ Watt contract situation. And Echols was a productive member of the Steelers secondary last year too. He picked off a couple passes. I read that already. Now you're not going to go into the lab to create the perfect defensive back and have it spit out Brandon Echols. He's undersized for one. Oh, here we go. All right, I'm not going to read that. Okay, so the Steelers have had a lot of undersized defensive backs, and you want to know who the main one is? Troy Polamalu. Troy Polamalu he's a freak like James Harrison. You'll see another Rod Woodson or Mel Blount before you'll see another Troy Polamalu. I know Troy Polamalu is listed at 5'10". That's a stretch. Troy Polamalu is more like 5'8". Just like James Harrison's listed at 6 foot tall. James Harrison's like 5'10" and a half. But I'm talking about height. I'm not talking about athletic, explosive ability plus instincts on top of it, plus a desire to win and toughness. I'm not talking about those things. But, Brandon Echols is really not undersized. So that's just, these writers, they just say that Darnell this thing's like, oh, he's not 6'4". Well, trust me, not many defensive backs are. So he's not undersized. He can play football. I just don't think he's got enough opportunities. That's my opinion. DK Metcalf has a new nickname for Steelers rookie Eli Heidenreich. I've been saying this. He needs to, what is that called? Patent that. I can see it now in Pittsburgh. They got like this big, huge sandwich called the Heidenreich. He's a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers for just a few months, but rookie 7th-round draft pick Eli Heidenreich is already drawing plenty of attention and immersing himself in the locker room. As a dual threat offensive weapon who can play running back and even some wide receiver. Heidenreich sports a new nickname from running backs coach Raymond Chinyoung Sr. Chinyoung revealed during organized team activities that he calls Heidenreich a Swiss Navy knife, playing under the ladder, attending the Naval Academy. That's not the only nickname he has picked up since joining his hometown team. DK Metcalf, a few weeks ago in practice, he asked me, "Are you okay if I call you Captain America?" It's funny. And I was like, absolutely. Yeah, that's perfect for him. Absolutely, DK. You can call me Captain America. I'm honored. Heidenreich said on the Ross Tucker podcast that published Thursday morning, according to video via the show's YouTube page. Of course, the Captain America angle comes from Heidenreich starring at Navy and currently serving as a reservist in the United States Marine Corps. His full focus is on trying to make the Steelers 53-man roster this summer in Latrobe, but it's pretty cool that he's serving his country in the process. It seems to be catching on with teammates and coaches too. Heidenreich isn't a superhero like Captain America, but it's cool that a veteran like DK Metcalf knows who he is and gave him a nickname that reflects his respect for Heidenreich. The Pittsburgh native still has a tough road ahead of him to grab a roster spot, but he's made an impression on many so far. Wow. I don't know. I have a different opinion on that. I don't think it's as tough as people think. I think the Steelers, I think Roman Wilson better play like his hair is on fire in the preseason or he might be getting cut. So a key difference in Steelers' new running back duel. There are several ways to evaluate how running backs accumulate yards. Today, we're using Pro Football Focus elusive ratings as a key statistic. This is defined as measuring runner success and impact with the ball, independent of blocking. It reveals a key difference in how things transpired in 2025 for the Steelers' new running back duel of Jaylen Warren and Rico Dowdle. Within that stat, as an important element is forcing missed tackles. This is the second stat on the following scatter plot. Look at Jaylen Warren. He's up there. All right, I'm not going to read this, but, I like the running back duel. I think this is a great combination. I really do. They're going to punch it up in there fast. They're going to get upfield. They're going to get downfield. We go to 13 personnel. I can see them causing a lot of problems for a lot of defenses. They both can catch the ball in the backfield. They both can pass block. I can't say enough good things about both of these running backs. I like both of them. Gritty, tough, play with a chip on their shoulder, explosive. They can take it to the house. So I got nothing negative to say about either one of them. Capoli named Steelers free agent signee who could surprise. The Pittsburgh Steelers were busy this offseason retooling and reshaping their roster to plug holes and began forming the group into Mike McCarthy's vision. Wide receiver Michael Pittman Jr., cornerback Jamal Dean, and safety Jaquan Brisker were the headline additions. Pittman through trade, the others through free agency. Mark Capoli thinks a different Steelers free agent could prove to be the shrewdest addition. I think Sebastian Joseph Day is going to be one of the surprising signings of the offseason, Capoli said during a Wednesday appearance on 93.7 The Fan. He definitely doesn't get talked about enough. If you look at his highlights, he reminds me of a fire hydrant. People are like, oh, he's, I hear a lot of people say he's short. He's not short. I mean, I guess for a nose tackle, if you're not, 6'5", 6'4", you're short, considered short. but when you're 6'2.5", closer to 6'3", and you're 315 pounds, he looks like a fire hydrant that can't be moved. So, and he's a tough, gritty, tough player. So I agree with this sentiment. I think Sebastian Joseph Day is going to be one of the surprising signings of the offseason. Copoli said during a Wednesday appearance on 93.7 The Fan. Look up some of his highlights at Tampa. I think, wait, was he? Yeah, I think it was Tampa. But just look up his highlights. Copoli made the comments in reference to Pittsburgh's strength along the defensive line. Cam Hayward returns as he continues holding off Father Time. Derek Harmon and Y.A. Black could surge in their second season. Joseph Day won't start, but could become a key contributor, rotating throughout each game. A veteran with entering his eighth year with more than 100 games. His ceiling is low, but his floor is high. A no-nonsense run stuffer. That's a perfect way to describe him, a no-nonsense run stuffer who can play up and down the line. Early in his career, he worked as a nose tackle, one tech, while Aaron Donald dominated three tech for the Los Angeles Rams. In recent years, Joseph Day has played more defensive tackle and end. In April, our Clay Eckert pointed to his impressive advanced data. Oh, I thought he played for the BUCS. I mean, he could have. Maybe earlier in his career, he played for the Rams. In Pittsburgh, he could play either. If Keanu Benton kicks out to play more tackle end, Joseph Day might rotate with Black at nose tackle. If Benton stays put, Joseph Day will filter in behind Hayward and Harmon. I don't think he's meant to play defensive end. I think he's definitely a nose guard. So that's my opinion. Pittsburgh's run defense hasn't been strong enough the past 2 years. It's been the foundation of every successful unit since the 1970s. Adding Joseph Day will help correct that, as will the Steelers' strong depth throughout the defensive line room. Copoli talked about Harmon and Black and what new defensive line coach D'Amato Pico can offer to accelerate their development. The Steelers have found defensive gems the past two free agency cycles. Strong safety Deshaun Elliott in 2024 and cornerback Brandon Echols in 2025. Joseph Day could be the 2026 version. That's a great comparison. It really is. I mean, if he brings the quality and the toughness and the ruggedness and the resilience of Deshaun Elliott and Brandon Echols, which I think he will, that's the perfect example of comparing him to, our free agency additions, Deshaun Elliott and Brandon Echols. I think he could really surprise. I think he could be a lot better than that, believe it or not. It won't take long for the unit to be tested as the Steelers face Atlanta Falcons running back Bijan Robinson in week 1. He's coming off back-to-back 1,400-yard seasons. Pittsburgh held him to just 68 yards and less than 4 yards per carry to open 2024, but he's better back today than he was. That's the game I'm trying to go to. I'm trying to be there week 1 against the Falcons. I want to see it. That's the game I'm really interested in. So hopefully. But yeah, I do think that Joseph Day is going to surprise a lot of people. I'm not going to try to read Roman numerals because I don't know any. I'm not going to waste your time or mine. The Super Bowl XL story most Steelers fans have never heard. This is pretty funny. This is every offensive lineman's worst nightmare that doesn't play center. One glance at the final score of Super Bowl XL, and most would assume the Pittsburgh Steelers handily defeated the Seattle Seahawks, but that was far from the case in their 21-10 win. It was a one-score game until the final 10 minutes. An altered outcome of just a play or two could have changed the course of Steelers history forever. That's why this little-known story, recently shared by Pro Hall of Fame guard Alan FANECA, is so fascinating. What a great player. Look, I'm not saying our offensive line is not good. I think they're getting better. Do I think they're going to be, Hall of Fame players? That remains to be seen. But when you think about the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line in their heyday, it's like these guys are animals. They'll absolutely tear you to shreds. If you don't show up with your lunchbox and ready to play football against somebody like Alan FANECA, it's going to be a really, really long day for you. When I look at our offensive line, and this is not a knock on any of them because I really like them, the direction that they're headed, but it's like, look what you're comparing them to. Look the type of players on the offensive line that the Steelers had in the past. It's like, do any of our offensive linemen really compare to any of them? And it's a tough, I'm trying not to go there. Let's just put it like this. FANECA was an amazing player. Imagine reaching the biggest moment of your career only to be told you might have a job you're barely practice. Let me start again. Imagine reaching the biggest moment of your career only to be told you might have to do a job you barely practice. That's a predicament FANECA suddenly found himself in late in the third quarter of the Super Bowl. Our backup center goes down. He's on the kickoff return and he hurts his knee. He's out of the game. Our starting center, he's had a bad knee. He's been kind of keeping it together for the whole season. He's starting to ache a little bit, FANECA said in an interview with WAFB, Louisiana Jacques Doucet. So Russ Grimm, he tells me Jeff Harding's hurting. Go down there and get some snaps with Big Ben. I'm like, I'm not going down there. I'm not taking snaps with Ben. So this goes back and forth until he finally says a few choice words. I told Ben the situation. He gets up, throws his hands up, and he's like, nah, I'm not doing this. I was literally one false slip from my first snaps being in the third quarter of the Super Bowl. Backup center Chucky Okobi got injured midway through the third quarter on the kick return unit. His role was to be the wedge buster, but he somehow managed to get injured on a touchback. Harding's ailing knee almost forced FANECA to move from left guard to center, which would have thrown a wrench in the entire offense for the rest of the tight Super Bowl contest. Had FANECA shifted further inside, Trey Essex, a rookie tackle at the time, may have been thrust into action with the starting offense on football's biggest stage against one of the best defensive lines in football that season. The game was still just 14-10, meaning there was a little margin for error. A complete overhaul of the Pittsburgh's offensive line at that stage of the Super Bowl could have changed everything. Center is one of the hardest positions to play in football. Just look at Marquise Pouncey's 2020 playoff disaster as an example of what one bad snap can do to the outcome of a game. Yeah, that was tough. Determined to achieve his life's biggest goal, FANECA had a pep talk with Jeff Hardings and his injured knee. I said, look, Jeff, snap the ball. I'm going to take care of everything else. Thankfully, I didn't have to, FANECA said. Hardings held up, FANECA stayed at guard, and the rest is Steelers history. It was one forgotten moment that nearly changed everything. Oh, yeah. I mean, that's every offensive lineman's worst nightmare, especially if you're not a center. I mean, Alan FANECA, I think he weighs like 210 pounds now. It's crazy. Now he's running marathons. It's like, I don't mind exercising, 4 or 5 times a week, but I know one thing, and I don't even mind running, but I ain't running 26 miles. I can tell you that. Not happening. Let's say you did some long distance work. It's like, if I could do 45 minutes or 60 minutes worth, that's enough. I tap out. You win. Training for marathons, man, that's a whole different mind and ball game. I didn't see this. Former Browns All-Pro returner Josh Cribbs explains why he would never have joined the Steelers. Well, we don't want you, Josh. I used to love seeing you get hit by James Harrison. We wouldn't want you anyway. The AFC North is usually one of the NFL's best divisions. The Pittsburgh Steelers, Baltimore Ravens, and Cincinnati Bengals have all gone to the Super Bowl over the last 2 decades. However, the Cleveland Browns have been the division's weakest link. They spent most of the last 2.5 years as one of the worst teams in the league. Don't worry, the trend's going to continue. Don't worry. Despite their lack of success, former Browns All-Pro returner Josh Cribbs doesn't think he ever would be able to play for the Steelers. After a while, you would have seen that it was about business and football. If I would have made that move, Cribbs said recently on Big Plays Cleveland YouTube channel, I respected Tomlin playing against him twice a year, every year. It was a mutual respect across the 50-yard line. I just couldn't do it. I was bred from Cleveland and bred into hating the black and gold, and I could never do it. Well, I'll respect him for that, because when I saw James Harrison on the Bengals, it really left a bad taste in my mouth. Never mind the Patriots. I think the Bengals one bothered me more because he was in the locker room messing around with Burfett of all people. So I understand what he's saying. Cribbs played for the Browns from 2005 to 2012, earning 1 first team and 1 second team All-Pro nod. He also made 3 Pro Bowls. While the Browns were still terrible during most of Cribbs' tenure there, he was one of their few bright spots. Cribbs was sensational on special teams, recording 11 return touchdowns. Yeah, well, we don't want you, so no big deal. Just keep it moving. I used to love seeing James Harrison put hits on you, but hey. Another ridiculous take by an analyst who seems to have Aaron Rodgers derangement syndrome. Aaron Rodgers derangement syndrome is real. This is what the analyst went on to say. I don't think he played winning football. Palazzo says Rodgers is not among all-time great QBs. It's just like, dude, does this idiot work for ESPN? Aaron Rodgers, of all people, didn't play winning football. Okay, does he have a Super Bowl ring? Fine, I know it's from a long time ago, but I mean, he owned the division for God only knows how many years, the NFC North. It's just some of these writers, it's like, how do you have a job? Or whatever he is, analyst. Aaron Rodgers didn't play great football. And you could say that with a straight face. It's like, I'm not a Tom Brady guy at all. And I don't think he's the best ever. I think the greatest quarterback ever is Joe Montana. But I don't deny Tom Brady's greatness. I put him in the top 5. I'm not putting him in the top 2. I think the top 3, I think, again, Joe Montana, number 1. Terry Bradshaw, number 2. I heard a stupid statement by Chris Sims the other day. It's like, he says, the Pittsburgh Steelers didn't depend on Terry Bradshaw for anything. Really, Sims? Really? The Steelers the year before were playing smash mouth running the ball. And because of Terry Bradshaw and Lynn Swann and Stallworth, they went into passing the ball down the field. They switched up the entire offense so Terry Bradshaw could throw the ball down the field. Not to mention he called his own plays. Back then you got to basically, hill the quarterback and you had to deal with it. You had to be a man and get hit. So I would put Montana 1, Terry Bradshaw 2, and if I had to take a quarterback in a situation that was tough, Troy Aikman is a dynamite quarterback. So, Brady could come 4th or 5th, and Aaron Rodgers, I'd put him in the top 10. But these analysts, they let their personal feelings for the players because they don't like them, like cloud their judgment. It's just pathetic. Aaron Rodgers is set for his final NFL season, confirming that he plans to retire once the year ends. He hopes to improve on his first year with the Pittsburghs. Oh, yeah, let me guess, Palazzo. When Aaron Rodgers was in his prime, the other teams were like, yeah, we want to see Rodgers. He sucks. He's overrated, right? Okay. It's just like, dude, shut up. Rodgers is one of the best quarterbacks of all time. Even Tom Brady said that. Rodgers is the greatest passer in NFL history. Despite that, analyst Steve Palazzo argued that Rodgers isn't as good as some of the best quarterbacks ever. Dude, just here we go. You look at Rodgers in comeback situations, the Browns game last year through his career, he hasn't been great in comeback situations, Palazzo said Thursday on his Check the Mic podcast. His curve, he didn't have that tick up and aggressiveness. He's like, no, I'm not throwing a pick. But an incompletion, the same as a pick if it's on 4th down. Who is this idiot? Like, who is this moron? Rodgers is the first ballot Hall of Famer. He's awesome. I don't think he played winning football. Wait, hold on a minute. Rodgers is a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's awesome, but you don't think he played winning football. Interesting take. So how could you be a Hall of Famer and not play winning football? Yeah, this sounds like an ESPN hire. I hate the whole talent conversation. There's the most talented quarterback. That doesn't matter. At some point, how well you play matters more than that. I don't think Rodgers has played winning football at the same level as Peyton Manning, Brady, Mahomes, and some of the other elite quarterbacks. I think he's just a tick below that. Well, if I had to take Brady over, Brady. Look, it's not really fair to compare him to these other quarterbacks like that, but oh yeah, you think Aaron Rodgers is a Hall of Famer, but he doesn't play winning football. So you're going to tell me Peyton Manning, when he had to go up against Aaron Rodgers, if they ever did, or Brady or Mahomes, they just said to themselves, he's not really that good. He's not really that. He's overrated. That's what you think offenses and defenses of other opposing teams were thinking? Give me a break. Rodgers ranks near the top of most major quarterback statistics. He's 5th in passing yards and 4th in passing touchdowns. Also, he holds the record for career quarterback rating. However, he's not as high up on the 4th quarter comebacks list. He's got 25, which is tied for 20th with Andy Dalton. quarterbacks like Ryan Tannehill, Kirk Cousins, and Derek Carr above him? Maybe because the Packers were winning the majority of the game. He didn't have to come back. When you're on a shitty team, usually you got to come back. It's just like, all right, man. I need to move on. I just need to move on. Just another stupid idiot that probably works at ESPN shooting off his mouth. All you got to do is look at one sentence. I think Aaron Rodgers is awesome. I think Aaron Rodgers is a Hall of Fame quarterback. And then the next sentence is, well, I don't think he played winning football. Yeah, that makes sense. And you push send on that one. Anyway, time to move on. Father Time has caught up. PFF gives Aaron Rodgers lowly ranking. How do you know? Based on what? Father Time, he was top 14 quarterback in the league last year. I mean, I guess they were all give me's. I guess the defense that day said, oh, we're going to take it easy on old man Rodgers, right? Based off of what? Based off of what? Did the season start? Are we in week 3 of the 2026 season where you see that Aaron Rodgers can't play at all anymore? Here we go. More stupidity. The Pittsburgh Steelers bringing back Aaron Rodgers for a second season is a move that many pundits are questioning. After all, Rodgers struggled last season under pressure, got rid of the ball in the fastest time of his career, and generally didn't push the ball down the field. Well, he didn't push the ball down the field because the Steelers don't throw the ball over the middle of the field, and he's not the play caller. But anyway, in the Steelers' AFC wildcard blowout loss to the Houston Texans, Rodgers looked finished with his last pass of the season going for a pick 6. It seemed like Rodgers would ride off into the sunset, especially after Mike Tomlin resigned. Instead, with Mike McCarthy hired as the new head coach, Rodgers is back for what they say is his final season. The Steelers have upgraded around him with the addition of Michael Pittman Jr. and Jeremy Bernard at receiver, and they invested in their offensive line heavy again. The defense should be much better too. So the hope is that Rodgers can be serviceable enough to win games and get the Steelers over the hump in the playoffs. But Pro Football Focus isn't particularly high on Rodgers ahead of the second season, with the Steelers ranking him in the bottom half of the starting quarterbacks for 2026. The future Hall of Famer comes in at number 22, right between Minnesota's Kyle Murray and Indianapolis' Daniel Jones. It's a slight improvement from NFL Network's Greg Rosenthal ranked Rodgers on Wednesday. Well, you know what? Guess what? If he is, let's just say that's true. Look how young Kyle Murray is and look how young Daniel Jones is. And if my 42-year-old quarterback is still throwing for, 4,000 yards and 24 touchdowns and 7 picks, I'll take it. Because what's our other option? The future Hall of Famer comes in at number 22, right between Minnesota's Kyle Murray and Indianapolis' Daniel Jones. Father Time has caught up with the 42-year-old. He earned just a 68.0 PFF overall grade last year, the worst mark of his career. His 38.1 PFF passing grade under pressure ranked sixth worst among qualifying quarterbacks. PFF writes on Rodgers, he has become far more conservative than any other point in his career, as his 6.6 yard average depth of target was a career low and ranked fourth lowest in the league. And I put that all on Smith and Tomlin. And I believe that Rodgers was being told, if it's not there, get it out of your hands. We don't want you getting hurt. So I put a lot of that on Arthur Smith and Tomlin. Rodgers will try to recapture the magic one final time in 2026, but his best days are clearly behind him. Oh, okay. Well, do we think we're getting a prime Aaron Rodgers? No. But again, he finished in the top 15 last year. So how you're decoding this, like Father Time is definitely caught up. Okay, I could see if it was like week 4, if we're in week 4 in the new season and Rodgers is playing horribly, you came to this conclusion. But hey, let me move on. Do some more creative things. Eli Heidenreich believes versatile role at Navy prepared him for Pittsburgh. My junior year is when we switched over to our current offense. I guess a little bit more modern version of the wing T allows us to throw the ball more and do some more creative things with the football. And I think that's what really allowed me to showcase my abilities and my versatility, things that made me attracted to NFL teams. Heidenreich said Thursday on the Christian Coots podcast. Navy's offense is certainly different than the one Heidenreich will play under Mike McCarthy. But at Navy, skill position players like Heidenreich are asked to do a lot of different things. He finished his collegiate career with well over 1,000 rushing yards and racking up a single season high of 499 in his final year. His 941 receiving yards in 2025 were even more impressive, and he had 1,994 in his career. Point being, he was a key cog in the offense in both the run and pass game. I'm not saying that Heidenreich can't get any reps at running back, but I think his best chance to make a real impact for the Pittsburgh Steelers is at wide receiver and special teams, obviously. My role has been running back right now, and who knows, down the line, I get the chance to hang out with some of the receivers. Heidenreich said I was doing a lot of running back and a lot of receiving at Navy. It just kind of allowed me and forced me to develop both skills. Excuse me. Yeah, well, I agree with him. So very valuable. I can't say enough good things about him. You don't want to hear me say the same things over and over. So let me just move on. But he's ready to go. He's here to play football. He's not here to be on the practice squad. He's not here, he's here to play football, and I think he's going to make the active roster. So Steelers' third wide receiver could have smaller role in Steelers offense than you think, Capoli says. Arthur Smith may be gone, but how important will the third wide receiver be in Mike McCarthy's Steelers offense? While we should see an increase in 11 personnel, Mark Capoli is skeptical that another receiver will have a big impact with DK Metcalf returning and Michael Pittman Jr. added this offseason. Those are your producers, he believes. No, I don't believe that. I'm not saying they won't produce, but if all your attention, you got to pay attention to Metcalf and you got to pay attention to Pittman. It's like pick your poison. These are very big receivers. And then everybody's paying attention to them. And then you have a crafty receiver like Jeremy Bernard, going over the middle of the field, tearing up the middle of the field. He could have a bigger year than anticipated. I see him getting 700 yards, 5 or 6 touchdowns, 30 to 50 catches. If he has that type of rookie year, we're all going to be happy. But I could see that happen. I mean, this is the best receiving core he's ever played with in his life. You can't compare it to college. And again, defenses are going to be really focused on those two outer receivers because the size, the size matchup, it presents a lot of problems for defenses. You don't have one guy that's just big. You got another huge receiver out there. So I would say Jeremy Bernard is definitely the favorite. He said on the Capoli and Mac podcast when discussing who has the edge to be the third wide receiver in the Steelers offense this year. But the rookie, you never know how he's going to react once he gets to camp. Can Roman Wilson take the next step? No, I don't think so. That's the one that's on the back burner where maybe it's Roman, maybe it's Bernard. Maybe they go find somebody if they don't like either of them. He added why Capoli is not the first one to suggest that the Steelers could look for more help on offense with another wide receiver. Most were talking more about depth. I don't know. I don't think that. I think from day one, Jeremy Bernard is going to be the starter and the Steelers are going to go from there and they're going to let it all hang out. He's a second-round draft pick. He's a second-round pick that the Steelers moved up to draft. And we all know what happened. I'm probably saying his name wrong. I say Inhiker. I've heard other Steelers insiders say it differently. We all know the Steelers wanted to get a wide receiver in the first round. We all know they wanted McKylem. Didn't work out. They played it safe. They moved up to get Jeremy Bernard. And I think the Steelers are going to start him from day one. I don't think, again, millionth time, I don't think Roman Wilson is the answer. I don't think the switch is going to go on all of a sudden where Roman Wilson, turns into this fantastic receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And we're just going to have to see, I think they're just going to throw him to the fire and see how it goes. That's my opinion. Who at this point could you bring in the free agent market? Who could you sign to the roster that's going to be so much better than your second round pick in Jeremy Bernard. At some point, you got to say, we use the second round pick on him. And the only way we have to give him opportunities to see if he can play. I don't think the answer is to always bring in outside receivers who are, 34 years old and on their last leg. And just because they, know the offense a little bit better because of their time in the league, that they should automatically play over a player like Jeremy Bernard. I'm not buying it. If Jeremy Bernard is struggling, put Skronik in there. Go from there. Work what we have. I just don't see it. I don't see how you could bring anybody else that's going to come in and just be so much better. It's time to develop our younger talent. Again, Eli Heidenreich should be taking reps at wide receiver. He should be taking reps in the slot. See how it goes. Work with what you have. All right, I said my piece for today. And with that being said, thanks for tuning in to Steel City Football, the 4-1-2.